There are multiple reasons that you should consider becoming an automotive technician in 2023. There's a lot of pros and cons about this trade, but what I'm going to try to do today is to kind of dive into those and hit some of the highlights and talk about some of the reasons why I love what I do and some of the reasons why it's really not so great. So stick with me. There's going to be a lot of information here. Buckle up. Let's get going. My name is Andrew. I'm a professional technician. I've been doing this for about 8 years in a full-time shop. I worked as a mobile guy and then doing repair on my parents' farm prior to that, but about 8 years as a full-time professional technician. So I'm coming from a point of experience when I'm bringing you this information. The real thing that everybody wants to know about is the money. Is there money in this trade? And I can tell you right now, the answer is yes. There is good money to be made as an automotive technician. Now, that being said, there's a few caveats to that. You have to show up on time. You have to work hard and you have to learn. And you have to be willing to invest money in tools. In order to talk about tools, we got to go somewhere that actually has tools. Speaking of tools, we are here at my shop. Well, not my shop, but the shop that I work for. And we are standing in front of my toolbox, tool cart, tool collection. And we're here today to talk about tools. So let's just start this conversation by saying that as an automotive technician, if this is something that you're interested in getting into, you are going to spend a lot of money on your own tools to do the job. So I see people, and I'm not trying to bash on teachers right now because teachers do a very important job, but teachers complain about having to spend $1,000 a year on their own school supplies for their classroom. Guys, I got $30,000 or $40,000 worth of tools here that I had to buy to do my job. I get paid the amount of money that I get paid because I have the tools to do my job. So if you want to get into this career, you have to spend a lot of money in tools. That being said, you don't have to buy Snap-on. Snap-on's great for some stuff. It's not great for other stuff. I'm going to do a whole video that specifically addresses that at a later time, so definitely subscribe if you haven't already. But you have to spend money on tools that you buy that you do not get reimbursed for to do this job so that you can get paid. So that sucks, especially when you're first starting out, because when you're first starting out, you're making the least amount of money and you need the most tools because you don't have anything. I've got a couple of videos, which I will try to link here or down in the description, that talk about kind of how to get started in that process, but it's very expensive. There's no way around it. It's expensive to get into this trade. That being said, there are ways that you can be smart about it, and borrowing a ton of money from Snap-on is not the way to do it, but I digress. The point is, tools are very expensive. They're a necessary evil, unfortunately, for the trade. But the other really good thing about buying your own tools, as just like in your own head to kind of rationalize spending this much money, is that once you buy these tools belong to you. That means that this box and everything in it is mine. This box and everything in it is mine. If my employer decides that he wants to cut my pay by 30% when I come into work on Monday, I can say, have a nice day, and I can take all of my stuff and I can go down the road to the next guy who'll pay me just as much as I'm making now, if not more. That gives you freedom. And freedom is something that is really rare today in the world. And by having your own tools, by being your own unit, you have a tremendous amount of freedom. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about being an automotive technician is I have freedom and flexibility. And once you build up your tool set, once you build up your skill set, you have so much flexibility. You can go anywhere in the country and make a living, whether that's doing side work for yourself or working for a shop. There's so many possibilities. Those possibilities, genuinely, I mean this sincerely, the possibilities are endless once you've got your own tools. So don't be afraid of the tools. Don't be afraid of the money that has to be spent, but understand that it's a long-term investment. And you buy the tools and you've got the tools. That's why we buy tools with a lifetime warranty, so you don't have to keep buying tools. But you're never going to be done buying tools, but you're probably going to spend the most amount of money in tools in your first 5 years as a technician. So that's kind of that as far as the tool conversation goes. With all that being said, that shouldn't turn you off from this industry. There's a lot of money to be made. There are multiple opportunities for you to, within your first, I would say, probably 5 years of employment as a professional automotive technician, if you work hard, you can be making over 6 figures a year. That is in today's dollars, in today's repair world. So I'm not sure what the money is going to look like 5 years down the road, but at the rate technician wages have been growing over the last few years, chances are it's going to be even higher than that. So there is good money to be made as an automotive technician. So the other thing that I want to talk about today is kind of what's beyond the money, the personal satisfaction you get from taking something that doesn't work, you working on it and fixing it. For example, last week I had a 2012 Ford F350 with a 6.7 Power Stroke diesel engine in it that needed an engine replacement. So that was one that was really cool for me because it's like we drag this thing into the shop on a forklift, the body comes off, we put a new engine in it, put the body back on, and I drive it out. So taking something that is very complex and very intricate as far as the number of things that need to be done, and taking it from it doesn't work, we're dragging it on a tow truck or a forklift or whatever, it's being drugged into the shop, not working, and then I put my skill and some parts into it, and then that truck drives away and the customer's happy. That's the kind of satisfaction that, at least when I was working an office job, I really didn't get that. So I really enjoy that personal satisfaction of fixing something. The other thing that's really important that I think is worth mentioning here is when you're able to work on vehicles, you can work on your own stuff. The amount of money that I have personally saved in the last, let's say, 12 months of being able to work on my own stuff and not having to pay somebody to work on it is probably in the vicinity of, let's say, $3,000 to $5,000 worth of work, not counting all the side projects that I've got going with the Power Stroke Rescue series. If you haven't seen that, I'll link episode 1 right there. There's a whole bunch of episodes. Go check that out if you're interested in trucks and diesel and stuff like that. Really interesting series if you're interested in that. That being said, the amount of money you can save in not paying for repair work on your vehicles. I had to do a timing chain water pump job on my wife's 2011 Explorer. There were a whole bunch of videos on that. If you're interested in that, I'll put that link right up there as well. But for example, that job alone is about 12 hours worth of labor. And so at $110 an hour, $1,300, $1,400 right out of the gate, I didn't have to spend that money. So that's the other big reason to save is you can save yourself a ton of money. You can help out your friends and family. The other thing is side work. You can always make money on the side fixing cars. There's always somebody with a broken car who needs it fixed and doesn't want to pay a shop price. The downside to side work is the liability involved. That's why I personally don't do hardly any side work. And when I do, I'm charging about $10 an hour less than the shop I work for. And the shop I work for is a mile away. So I don't like side work. I don't really do side work. I try to avoid side work because it opens me up to personal liability. I was reading a post the other day where someone had paid a independent side work mechanic to do some work on their car. They took that car out for a road test and totaled it. The car only had liability insurance, and the question was who's responsible, and the answer is the technician that worked on it is responsible. If you are not operating under the umbrella of another shop and the other shop's insurance, you are personally responsible. So if you're considering side work, be very careful with side work. I wouldn't recommend it. I try to avoid it as much as I can. That being said, when you can go out and charge $40 or $50 an hour, the other person gets a great deal, you make good money, it's cash, all those things are good. So not strictly speaking knocking it, but that is another avenue that you can use to make money to offset paying for tools and life and all the other stuff that comes along with that. There are a ton of baby boomers and older Gen Xers that are getting ready to retire and get out of this field entirely. That means that there are fewer skilled hands to work on cars, and with modern cars, there's more cars than ever before that need to be repaired and fewer people that can DIY repair those cars themselves. So there's a huge technician shortage. There is surprising wage growth as far as what technicians could make. 10 years ago, if you were making $50,000 a year as a technician, you're doing pretty good. I'm well over that, and I've only been doing this for 8 years. So there is decent money to be made here. You're not gonna make $1 million a year, but you can certainly make up to, I would say that probably the cap as far as technician income is probably gonna be between $110,000 and $150,000 a year. Now, again, that's probably the top 0.5% of technicians make that much money, and they usually work 6 or 7 days a week to achieve that. One of the keys to success in this trade is constantly learning. As new technology comes out, there's more and more information that a professional technician needs to understand and have a grasp of and know. So learning, so going to every class you can get your hands on, watching people on YouTube. Obviously, there's a couple that I would recommend. Obviously, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to point that out. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button now. But guys like Scanner Dan or Eric the Car Guy, Humble Mechanic, these are some guys that put out really, really good quality automotive content. There's a lot of information that you can learn as a DIYer or as a professional to kind of wrap all this stuff up and tie all the pieces together. There's a massive technician shortage. There's been surprising wage growth because of that technician shortage. Tools are expensive, but you can work past that. There's ways around that, and it's a really rewarding career, and this is a great time to jump into it if it's something that you are considering. So all that being said, I hope you guys found this video interesting. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer every question that I can, and I'll see you guys in the next video.